All right, everybody, welcome back to yet again another 2022-2023 season preview. We don't have a lot of these left, but we move on today with the Winnipeg Jets. Now, the Jets. Honestly, with some of the stuff that has gone on over the past couple of weeks, and I'm saying weeks because I really do mean couple of weeks, I really don't know, and I'm starting to not think this team really can have a bounce back season from last year. With some of the stuff going on in the locker room and just some of the guys they have here, I don't think this team really is going to make a comeback overall. But last season was a surprisingly bad one, but it wasn't bad at the same time. But they missed. It was confusing. They went 39, 32, and 11 for 89 points. They scored 252 goals and only let in 257, and they surprisingly missed the playoffs. Your leading scorer was Kyle Connor with 47 goals, 46 assists for 93 points, and then your goaltender in that, who obviously played the most games, was Connor Hellebuyck with a 27 and 10 record with a 2.97 goals against average. Down year for Connor Hellebuyck, definitely. And just a down year overall for Winnipeg. It was not a good year. Injuries did play a role. There were some rumors of locker room issues with guys like Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler, which could be the reason why Wheeler was taking off the captaincy role. But as of right now, it's not looking so good for the Jets. Now, their offseason wasn't like all too eventful, but it wasn't really good either. So your departures were Paul Stastny. I don't know why I think Peter. Evgeny Svechnikov, Eric Comrie, Zach Sanford, and Adam Brooks. So I'd say the biggest departure of all those is probably Eric Comrie. Comrie was a backup who actually looked solid in Winnipeg, and the fact that they couldn't sign him sucked, and he's obviously off to the Buffalo Sabres now, where he honestly could get a starting position. I definitely believe that. But as of right now, that isn't that good of a departure list for the Jets. Stastny was a solid third-line center. He just kind of didn't really work out in Winnipeg the way they wanted him to. Their acquisitions weren't really all too exciting either. Kevin Stenlund, Kyle Capobianco, and David Riddick. The fact that they even had Riddick even considered is surprising because Riddick was literally awful last season for the Nashville Predators. Just didn't look good at all. And I'm shocked he's even in that list of acquisitions for any team. To be honest, he's kind of just out of his prime at this point. I mean, I don't want to be a jerk, but he kind of is, if we're being entirely too honest here. You look at this top six, it isn't too bad. You have Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, Nikolai Ehlers, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Cole Perfetti. Now, that isn't that bad of a top six, but there are some looming rumors of some players maybe on their way out. Pierre-Luc Dubois is definitely one of them, and Blake Wheeler is obviously another. It is interesting when you look at the Jets and some of the stuff they have going on here. Kyle Connor, prolific goal scorer, honestly could score 50 goals this coming season. He came close with 47. He very well could take another step and score 50 or more. But for the rest of that, I mean, it isn't so good. Cole Perfetti, I think, definitely could take a step up from the past season. Perfetti showed signs of possibility last season, so I definitely think maybe he could be a player that really has a breakout year this coming season. I wouldn't be surprised, and I would honestly be excited for it because I've been a big fan of Cole Perfetti. We'll see what he can do, obviously, playing a second-line role with Winnipeg. Your bottom six, not as good as it used to be. It's Morgan Barron. Sorry, I get the Barons confused. Morgan Barron, Adam Lowry, and Mason Appleton. You have Jansen Harkins, David Gustafsson, and Christian Reichel. Then you have Daniel Torgerson, Dominic Toninato, and Kevin Stenlund. Really not that deep. I mean, to the casual fan, a lot of those players are no names. Honestly. There are some younger players on that bottom six, definitely. Like, Reichel's pretty young, Harkins is still pretty young, and Morgan Barron, if I'm correct, was actually a piece they got in the Andrew Kopp deal, if I'm right. So obviously, I mean, with Kopp gone as well, that really takes a blow to the top six as well. But, honestly, I don't see that bottom six really doing damage. Honestly, maybe it'd be some physicality, but I don't see that defense, that bottom six. I don't know what I'm doing today. That bottom six really doing all too well. You look at your defense here. You have Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk as your first pairing. Then you have Brendan Dillon and Dylan DeMello as your second pairing. Then you have Nate Schmidt and Logan Stanley as your third. Then you have Sandberg and Hein Nola as some extra defenders. Now, it's underrated. I think that defense is probably one of the more underrated Ds in the league. Pionk looks solid. Morrissey kind of starting to fall off, but he seems pretty solid as well. Obviously, there, Nate Schmidt's still a solid defender. Dylan's all right. DeMelo's okay. Not that bad of a defense overall, really. Logan Stanley, he looked meh this past year. Some people said, oh, he sucks, and then some people were like, oh, he's great. So kind of in the middle there. And then obviously your goaltending tandem is Connor Hellebuck and David Reddick. Then you have Mikhail Burden as a third-string goalie. Feels like he's been with Winnipeg for literally forever, but here he is again. Obviously that tandem is great. I mean, it really doesn't matter how bad that defense is. A goalie like Connor Hellebuck is an amazing goaltender, and I definitely think he could have a bounce-back year from last season. But I really don't see this Jets team surprising anybody, honestly. And then one of the biggest questions that I'm asking is something that we've seen rumored around with the Winnipeg Jets. How will the team chemistry do? Now, obviously, with Blake Wheeler no longer being the captain, and there's obviously a bunch of alternate captains now, Bowness said he wants to bring the leadership and bring, it shouldn't all fall into one player. He wants it to fall on multiple players, which isn't really a bad thing per se, but it does kind of make you wonder. There were rumors of Wheeler and Scheifele being toxic in the locker room, and there's obviously rumors of Wheeler being traded, so that could very well happen as well. There's a lot of things surrounding Winnipeg right now in that realm. I kind of wonder whether or not that the toxicity in the locker room could play a role in it. So hopefully, maybe this season they come in with a positive mentality, they win some hockey games, and maybe they surprise us. And really, one thing that I've learned playing hockey is attitude is huge. If you come in with a good attitude, a good mentality, you definitely will play better out there on the ice, 100%. The other question is, and I kind of referred to it, do they bounce back? I don't think so. I don't think this team, they definitely probably could be better than this past season, but I don't think they're going to really surprise people and make the playoffs. And it's not really through any fault of their own. This team is solid, but I think there's still some room to improve. And then obviously with the Central Division, it's so unbelievably competitive. The only two teams that are just a lock to not make it are Chicago and Arizona. And then you look at the Pacific Division as well for those wild card spots. There is some competition there as well. So things are definitely getting interesting there, but I don't think Winnipeg really has a shot at really making the playoffs. They could come close, but I don't think they make it overall. You look at your fantasy point-o-meter according to the Hockey News' fantasy guy here. You have Kyle Connor leading the way with 85 points. You have Mark Scheifele in second with 77. You have Nikolai Ehlers in third with 65. Pierre-Luc Dubois in fourth with 59. And then Blake Wheeler rounding out the top five with 50. So we'll see if that happens. I think Connor can honestly get more. He could honestly hit the 100-point plateau if he scores 50 goals this coming season. I think he very well could. He's just that good of a goal scorer and that underrated as well. Your sleeper or your bust is Cole Perfetti. The Jets are at crossroads, but one thing for sure, Cole Perfetti is going to be a big part of their offense. The playmaking ace started in the offensive zone 73% of the time at 5-on-5, and with some power play time, will vie for the Calder. So he is, I'm pretty sure he's still a rookie and still can contend for the Calder Trophy. I'm not entirely too sure there. But I think that Cole Perfetti definitely could be a player that could see a breakout season. He's played stints in 2021, and then in 2022 he also played as well. So I think maybe he brings those seasons together. He has some experience under his belt now. Maybe this is a season where Cole Perfetti breaks out, and maybe that's all the Jets need to make the playoffs. Maybe that's all the Jets need. And really, that could be the difference maker, if we're being honest. Your cup odds are 45-1. Really no surprise there. This team isn't. This team's a solid team, but I don't know if they're the best in that division to make it to the Cup Finals. GM Kevin Cheveldayoff was quiet in free agency, and Winnipeg appears content to go with his current lineup. He's generally not a wheeler and dealer, but the Jets seem ready for a reset, so Cheveldayoff will monitor the market closely throughout the season. And yeah, I honestly do think that this could happen. I think that if the Jets have another bad season like they did last year, they could clear house. And I think guys that maybe could get traded away are Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele, maybe even Kyle Connor, if they decide to deal Kyle Connor, which would be really interesting to see where he goes. There's plenty of teams that could use a left wing, 100%. Edmonton's one of those teams I mentioned. But obviously we'll see what happens with the Jets. Now the other question is, do they make the playoffs? In 2021 I said no, and in 2022 I said yes, so I am 0 for 2 when it comes to Winnipeg. I'm going to say no again. I'm going to say no. I don't think this team really has a bounce back year. I think, through no fault of their own, really, this team is decent in some areas, but they're not strong enough to really make a push for those playoffs. And with the division on its own, it's really competitive as it is, so I doubt they even make it anyways. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. for iSports Later. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe down below if you are new. And anyways, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.